Okay, last week we went over number conversions, and it's a tutorial that I got from Keith Vincent. That's actually the number conversion that we went over in the tutorial that's in the computer is really basic. It just kind of gives you some of the basic number conversions, I guess, that there is. But I mean, now it really kind of goes into detail about really what you can do with the numbers and how it switches them from if you write everything out to if you use the number bar, stuff like that. So I'm not quite sure what this one's going to cover today, but you may, for those of you that weren't here last week, and for those of you that were preaching, if you can go back and look at that one video from last week, okay?
Before we begin discussing how to set up Eclipse Automatic Number Conversion, let's see the program in action. But we'll slow down the process so we can see how Eclipse Number Conversion works. And keep in mind that unlike some CAD systems, Eclipse Number Conversion works the same way in both real-time and non-real-time translation. So this is truly reporter-compatible software. Whether you're a real-time reporter or not, and whatever your writing theory, Eclipse lets you write numbers as you hear them spoken and applies your number transcription rules precisely. He drove about 3 miles about 3 days ago at approximately 3 p.m. to buy wood for a 3-foot fence for his 3 dogs. Notice that the same stenostroke was used each time I said 3. 3 is defined in my steno dictionary, but it's in there all by itself. It's not globaled with the word miles, or with PM, or even foot. However, miles and foot are units of measure that imply a specific number conversion. PM implies a time conversion.
Let's continue. You may, one day in May, say that by May 1 you will find 111 things for $28,125.75. Here again, 1 was written the same way each time it was said, and it's in the dictionary as a word, not a digit. May is in my dictionary as a conflict between the verb may and the month.
Y'all remember what I told you about the number when we went through the number tutorial? About the way you put numbers in? You always write it out. Always. It's never numbers. I don't care what it is, whether it's dollars, cents, feet, ordinals, any of that stuff. Okay? You always never define it as whatever feet. It's always just a number by itself. Don't put it as, 3 feet, 3 F-E-E-T. Don't define it as that. Okay?
It's too specific for your dictionary, right?
It is very specific.
Specific.
You always want to define them differently. Okay? 3, T-H-R-E-E, and then feet, F-E-E-T. So you're going to define, both of those differently. You're never going to define it the same. Okay? You're gonna change it in your user settings. Is where it knows what to do. Okay?
Before we begin discussing how to...
In May, say that by May 1 you will find 111 things for $28,125.75. Here again, 1 was written the same way each time it was said, and it's in the dictionary as a word, not a digit. May is in my dictionary as a conflict between the verb may and the month name, May. As for this dollar amount, that is not in my dictionary. It was understood from a combination of number bar strokes and word strokes, and even the word "and," which was written when it was heard. With Eclipse, words like million and miles and pounds are understood to imply specific number conversions. This next example shows 7, 9, and 10-digit numbers to imply other conversion. 5, 2, 3, 6, 3, 4, 9, my telephone number. Note that 7, 1, 3, 5, 2, 3, 6, 3, 4, 0 is the fax number. 4, 3, 8, 9, 2, 3, 0, 0, 1. That's my Social Security number. In this example, Eclipse understood that 7 and 10-digit numbers in the United States are for telephone, and 9-digit numbers are usually Social Security. These are defaults for reporters in the U.S.
Y'all understand what it's saying there? We kind of went over that in the other tutorial.
Yeah, but
You know
mine's not
about-
doing it.
Huh?
Mine isn't doing it, so,
That's weird.
yeah, I know. Something about so too.
It's always usually going to know with the numbers. You know, when there's 7, it's always going to put it as a telephone number. Now, you may have misstroked, and you may have wanted, 523, assuming my combination lock starts with 523, and that's the way that it's written out. But you wrote 6439, and I'm not saying that's the numbers for it, but it'll know over here in your global magic. It's gonna give you the option of, well, did you mean a word? Did you mean the letters that you stroked out for these numbers? Could mean this. So it could give you that possibility. Or it's going to say, did you mean 646349 as the telephone number? So it's always going to give you these options over here. It's going to give you like dollars, ordinal. It may ask you if it's part of a Social Security number and you left out some of the numbers. It'll give you a few options of what it thinks that you may have been doing. So, I mean, like I preach to you guys every week, the more you use the software, the more it's going to become familiar with how you write. So that's how it's going to give you more options. You don't want to use it as an input. Y'all know what I mean by an input? You don't just want to input information like a typewriter. You don't want to use it as a typewriter. Okay? You want to use the software as much as you can. Okay? But you don't want to put bad things in there either. So if it's totally not what you meant to do, then it's okay to input stuff every now and then. But if it's kind of what you meant to do, then use it that way, because it's only going to become more familiar with what you're doing the more you use it, which, only makes sense. But the program itself is very intelligent, so it becomes more familiar with the way that you write the more you use it. Okay?
Say, but if you work somewhere else, you can change these defaults to something that's useful for you. Your dictionary can also include number conversion triggers that override these defaults. Here are a few examples. That's what we saw in volume 38. Base number 5236349. So my dictionary entry for the word volume is a conflict, and if it sees that a number follows volume, it not only chooses the capitalized form of the word, but it converts that number.
Also, be very careful the way that you want to define certain things, because if you put this in there, that's a symbol for Roman numerals. Okay? So if you want to put it in dollars, it's going to be the capital D. Capital T is time.
M is money.
M is money. There's something for measurements, stuff like that. So be careful how you do it, because I don't know that you always want to do it like that. If they're talking about volume, what did he say, 38? I don't know that that's the way you want to write it. Unless you're in Rome, I guess. I don't know. But, or you're preaching from the Bible. And that may come in handy. But if you do, that's the way you want to do it. If you don't, that's not the way you want to do it. Okay? Make sense?
Into a Roman numeral. Likewise, my dictionary entry for Bates number is a conflict, and if it sees that a number follows, it makes sure that that number is a generic number, pure digit, and it chooses the proper form to modify that number.
And that's what it means by that. The G is generic. So however you do it is going to be the way that it writes it out. It's just going to write it out just in regular numbers. Okay? That's what that means.
Because Bates number told it to do that in that case, whatever Bates number is. Right?
Yeah.
Because up there it says Bates number
Yeah. Whoever
and then generic.
Mr. Bates is, then he likes his numbers just like that. All right? Did it turn off already?
Thus, it won't be mistaken for a telephone number or social security or other format. Eclipse supports a long list of units of measure and international currency. Let's see a few of these in action.
What it was doing there was just kind of giving you some examples
Before we begin discussing how to set
of how you're going to do things if you're going to be in different countries. Okay? It'll show you how to put it in pounds. Carat gems, yen, stuff like that. And the way that it's putting it, these are the symbols, in the different countries. I've been doing it 22 years, guys. Never done it. Never. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, because you may get somebody to take the deposition where, they went to, Japan or something, and they were, exchanging, or Asia, and they were, exchanging, yen, and they're going to talk about it. And if they're talking about certain amounts of yen that they spent on something, then you're at least going to know how to do it. And it's going to show you later how to go into your user settings and change it, for that particular job. You don't have to change it in your master. You just kind of change it in your job. But, it kind of shows you that when you do months a certain way, which you should, do y'all do them all with asterisk?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, April doesn't need it. April? Right, April?
People doesn't want to be.
Yeah, just a second. Okay. So it already knows that when you do it a certain way with a month, then it'll know to change it as an ordinal. Y'all know what an ordinal is, right? First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay, and it'll change it to that ordinal. Okay. I'm not quite sure what the setting is. And and I wish it would have said, and maybe it will later on, but how it knows, because usually like right after the month, it'll know to change it to an ordinal. But how it knew here to change it to an ordinal, but not here, I'll have to do some research on that one. But anyway, after the date, that's really what you need to know. You're gonna kind of know, you know, if you have to do read back, something like that, you're gonna know. You know, and especially if you use the number bar, it's not gonna be a problem. Because I always do my ordinals with the E. I don't know how y'all learned it, but like 1E is first, 2E is second. I don't know how y'all learned it. You know, and if you use marks, it's probably stroked out.
We do like one
do the
asterisk, 2 ND. We actually write it.
I do one ST.
Oh yeah, 1 S asterisk.
So it's, I'm assuming it's easier the way you're saying, 1E, 2.
I'm
Yeah,
just
it
saying,
seems
I don't
like
have
it
to
is.
remember ND, RD,
Or
TH.
Right.
It's just 1E, 2E, 3E,
Yeah,
4E,
that seems
5E,
right.
6E, and you define the E as ordinal. So it's going to be like I showed you guys with the, you know, the bracket, number sign, O, I believe it's O for ordinal, and then close bracket. So any number after that, it's going to know, you know, to change it that way. So it doesn't matter if you do 21st, because you do 2, 1E, or if it's 13th, 1, 3E, 42nd, 4, 2E. So you never have to think about, well, is it ST, RD, ND? You can do it however you want. I don't really care. I'm telling you how I do it, and I think it's pretty simple. Okay? I use the E, so use it however you want. But anyway, that's what the money conversion was there. Any questions about any of that? Excellent.
Before we begin discussing how to set up Eclipse Automatic Number Conversion, let's see the program in action. But